I don't know if this is the best one to use. Uh, you know, at some point you're happy with something. I've actually used this for, part of a PowerPoint to show, like a cruciform type of an armature. Quite frankly, what I'm doing today may not have much of an armature, although it actually does. It has a sphere. And I think what I was getting at is, for the past couple weeks, I've tried to figure out some way to be able to demo and not get stuck in the weeds. Doing some of the things I do involve much more dry brush, much more time, consistent with doing that. A lot of work with. In fact, the one that won Best of Show here had a lot of Caran d'Ache pencil work and maybe a little Neocolor too. So, a mixed media, water media kind of a thing. But that's not appropriate for a quick demo. And this is what I also do. In fact, the one that's in the show right now is, more of a marine subject. This one just got back from FWS and it won an award there. Didn't win one here, but, win some, lose some. Right, Robin? Okay, so I've been messing around with acrylics and in a little more fluid kind of the kind of thing that I would do here. So, some of this stuff is just pretty much squished on. These don't really have a whole lot of armature or a whole lot of structure to them, but they're kind of interesting in terms of color and the dynamic feel of them. There could be a little L in here, I think. Sometimes you're intuitively doing something that you're not quite aware of. You're not deliberately doing it. I think with most of these things, what I like to think I do is to be intuitive, but at some point in the process, in other words, have a conversation with the painting where the painting is doing most of the talking and you're kind of just listening to it and you're trying to not necessarily think about what you're doing, but maybe feed on, in my case, the many years that I've painted realistic paintings, some of that is just there. So you're not totally conscious of what you're doing. But there is a point where in that process toward the end, you've got something maybe that's going to work or maybe not. But at that point, you want to do something that's going to kind of pull it together. And in that case, you want to maybe impose some structure to it. Maybe crop it. Maybe certainly, I almost always don't end up with what I start from. If I'm doing a 22 by 30, generally a lot of them end up a square. A lot of them end up some different orientation than what I'm doing. So you can be, with acrylics, you can be, and abstracts, you can be much more free about what you're doing. In other words, you can't take the sailboat and cut it in two and end up with a decent painting. You can't turn it upside down, but that might be the solution for the composition. So with these, you can. So there's these have these have less structure to them. It's another one here. But they're very dominant in terms of color temperature, which is so important to your work, whether you're doing realism or, not, in other words, when you paint a realistic painting or an abstract, when painting a realistic painting, you don't want to just reproduce what's there, because generally what's there is not going to be a good painting. So you need to think in terms of a dominance of color, shape, direction. Color temperature is so important. So this is clearly a cool painting but the thing that you need to have In order to show what something is, you have to show what it isn't. So here's the cool, but there's some warm, hot actually in this, that then the cool is more presented. And these are actually the things that become the most important part of the painting. It's the thing that's counter to the dominant thing in the painting. So I'm assuming that I'm going to go quickly with this. So figured I'd probably get a little stuff in before. And this is more like what I'll end up with this time, is to just try and introduce some sort of an orb and have it bleed into the background. I just don't want to show you that completely but if this one messes up, we can, this is like a Julia Childs. We can pull this out of the oven. Yeah. No, that's just amazing. Okay, so this is 300-pound Arche hot press. A lot of what I've been doing is I like Elaine Daly Birnbaum's work. Mine doesn't really look like it, but I had started to do something similar to what she paints like years and years ago, but I tried to do it in transparent watercolor. And you couldn't do it because to be intuitive involves, being able to change things. And with watercolor, you need to reserve your whites and your light areas of the painting. So you're structured, right in the beginning, and that really precludes being intuitive. So I just, I read some of the things that she had written. And, one of them was the surface that she was working on and some other things. What I've done lately is I've pre-mounted the paper on foam core, a backing board, left the part that is the fallout so I've got it coated so I can stick it back in what I've cut out so I don't have to hinge it or anything. And as I found, if I just paint the way I'm painting, kind of wet and all that, it'll sit here wet, and because it's acrylic, it will adhere itself to what it's underneath. So in this case, it's not going to do that because this is already with gel medium underneath it. If I don't do that, which this has the painting already, so it may not do that, but it glues itself to the board. And it's not a pretty thing to try and take your chef's knife and try and alcohol and try and release it from the support that you're using. Okay, so I'm gonna just make an orb of some type. I know I had a pencil. Does anyone have a pencil? What an artist, huh? Be prepared. I was a Boy Scout too. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so. See that? Actually, was it more visible with the light or not? Or am I more visible now? Or okay. This awfully cold light. Okay. Or maybe see, put that on again and just see if it's a real problem. I'll do this, but yeah, maybe. Is that all right still? Because it's more easy for me to, I think. This is a little bit too. Hmm? Okay. Okay, all right. We can flip it on and off. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of set the stage for this. Should have done this earlier, so it tried a little bit. Did anybody see my paper towels? I know I had those a minute ago. They got legs. Okay. So I don't know what I'm going to use of this painting. And vary some of this, but not. This is kind of a more of a warm blue. There's a little more. I'm not really going to go by this. I'm kind of pretty much obliterated or something, but I think I may use bits and pieces of it. If I'm thick with the paint, it's going to cover what's there entirely. If I get thin with it, some of the stuff that's underneath will reveal as it dries. It probably, it'll be a better painting when you guys leave. Maybe. It's like a, it's not exactly like, somebody, putting a glaze on something and wondering what it's going to look like when it fires. But there's a bit of that with the acrylics. And they're totally 180 degrees from watercolor. So if I've been, teaching watercolor, which I had for Kathy and her group over in Tampa, it's like, okay, now the watercolor's dry, light, the acrylic's dry, dark, and, so it's a little bit interesting as to what some of these guys are going to do ultimately.
Do you thin with water or medium?
I'm thinning with water. I'm actually treating these, I mean, as thick as this gets at some point, I do end up kind of treating it like watercolor, which means, except it doesn't dry for, people think, oh, the acrylics dry so quickly. These will be, I had some of these that I've painted in the past, like 2 weeks ago, that stuck together, when because they were in the portfolio and, kind of under some pressure.
But this paint is straight out of the bottle, no water.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm putting some water in it now, though. Pardon? It's fluid acrylic.
What's fluid?
So it's its own kind of thing. Oh, definitely. Well, in fact, when people, I'll tell people, I've taught, more than a few classes of this, and people will bring regular acrylics, and it is possible to kind of thin them down, but it's not easy to get the right consistency. And this stuff comes right out of the bottle, and you can do all sorts of stuff with it that way. I mean, you can go, like that. Yeah, but anyway, it's different. I've got a bunch. Look, I've got everything. I've got open acrylics, a whole batch of those. I've got the standard heavy body acrylics, and now I got to figure out what I'm doing. Now, one of the reasons to kind of revisit some of these paintings is that they are all over the place. This isn't too much like that, but it's kind of like one of the things I maybe don't want to do is to get all over the place with it, which is easy to have happen. You try and get too cutesy with this stuff, and so I want these to be more a dominant kind of a thing. Oh, oh yeah, that's. Yeah, some of this stuff looks really cool when you're doing it like that, and then later on it won't. And other things that, look kind of, like, so what? And ultimately they can be kind of interesting. So let's see where this is going.
So you don't really have a plan because it's intuitive, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Hopefully what I feel is just right. But it won't be, it's just, you just have to react to things, and it is harder to do that and, have a bunch of people watching you. In the studio, you can be a little more, I don't care.
Texture.
Hmm?
Like texture underneath the looks like.
Well, there's a painting underneath it. So if you watched She Goes thing, it's like, I mean, she was like very careful with having, kind of lost and found edges. And, I mean, really careful. There is a bit of that here.
See what is reflection and what is sometimes. And I'm wondering is there any way to rectify that a little bit, or if we tilt toward
No, you can't do that. Yeah, not with this. When I paint watercolor, I paint it like, 20 degrees or something like that. This stuff, I've gone to Publix, and like after I've used, like the Quinn Violet and stuff, and they'll look at me, like I've got like on my belly, I've got like, it looks like, I've been ripped apart with a knife, so.
so if you didn't have painting underneath here, you would have put texture down first,
Uh,
or no?
Not really. I mean, I've done that. I've done things with paper, various papers, to achieve some texture and stuff. And then you kind of are inclined to go by what's there. Uh, I've not done a lot of spattering with this. That might be interesting. Yeah. Maybe achieve some interesting stuff with that. Fun with fluid acrylics. Pardon?
Why you use fluid acrylics than another?
Well, because I can pour it like that. It treats it semi like a thick watercolor, whereas with real acrylics, you're treating it more like an oil painting, where you're making deliberate brush marks, not allowing the paint itself to be, a major player in what you're doing. I have to squirt with this. Um,
Do you have all?
yeah. This is all the ones that I have and that I use. I think what I end up doing is, in this, if I was painting a real painting, like not for a demo, I might be more conscious of what. But this, I'm just reacting to what's there. Not so much the underpainting as, but I did sort of go off in this direction here. That may have been influenced by it. I think I've done this, and I've used maybe that division as a way to kind of divide up what blues I'm using. We can probably use a little this.
There's something in particular that you use to clean your brushes.
Alcohol.
Uh,
This is alcohol. That's, and that worked pretty well. Although I've still got a bunch of it on my hands from the last, from yesterday. So.
Are you dipping the brush in alcohol?
No. What I'm using to, as a thinning medium is just water. Yeah. The alcohol is for like cleaning your brush or cleaning up after yourself.
Is it just rubbing alcohol?
Yeah, just go to the pharmacy and whatever they have. Isopropyl alcohol. I mean, you could use Everclear, or I think Absolute doesn't have enough alcohol content. Whatever you used for to wash your hands for COVID, if you got any of that left over, you may still need it for the COVID.
Mask.
I haven't done that. You could do. I mean, you've got all the options. Yeah, I was just. What did I get? I got a ruling pen. I got a collection of those. They didn't work. But one of the things I thought would be interesting is line in this, and that's something I haven't really introduced. But I think the day or so before I came here, I thought that would be a nice option. And well, not, I mean, I'd been trying to do that, and then, but I hadn't come up with a solution for a way to do it. So I finally, I had like a little bottle like this that had like a more tapered tip to it. And I thought, oh, that would be good. And maybe I could get those tips. And so I used that and it worked fine. It did beautiful line. And then I thought, well, this has a pretty small, orifice or whatever on it. And I did it with that and it worked fine. So this would actually be the way I would go about doing that now. I was looking at Carol Pickles' work, and she does a lot of line work. And in retrospect, or after I sort of figured it out for myself, I thought that's what she does, because you can even see sometimes there's a little blubby thing at the end of some of them, at the beginning of it or something. So. Like I say, great artists steal. So I'm just sort of thinking maybe about, how to vary the blues, I want the cylindrical shape, but I don't want it to be just a cutout. And so I love the bleeds that come off of it.
Steve, you have 20 minutes.
Okay, good. This is going to work out, I think.
Do you use cones or any utensils to like cone through it?
You know what? I'll tell you what. I don't think I'll stick to this forever, but I'm thinking more, I want it to be hand of the artist. I want it to be painterly abstract rather than stamping and various things. Not that I think there's anything wrong with that. I just I want to avoid that for at least for a while. So hand of the artist. It's like how would Monet paint an abstract? How would Sorolla paint an abstract? Yeah, I think it's important, for any of your work to look, to nature, but also to go to museums and see the real deal. Not from the book necessarily. I mean, everything reads well. I mean, just as our own experience with the Watercolor Society this time, what looked good in a slide may not have looked so good if you actually saw the image. And conversely, something that you may have passed by in a slide may look fabulous when you see it. You heard my curriculum vitae or whatever, so I've done that, and you are so surprised when you see the actual paintings rather than what you think. Not all the time. Some of it's pretty consistent. Oh, this isn't going to dry for a while.
Do you varnish or coat your paintings when they're done?
uh, well, I haven't. I mean, I've just done, put them under plexi, matte. And I present these more as watercolors. Now, uh, I like to do, every year I like to do some art festivals, just the last couple of years, just two of them. So I've done Winter Park Sidewalk Art Festival, which is really excellent, and you can sell well at it, which is important. And and Vero Beach that I kind of do as a tune-up. Now the one with Winter Park, I applied as a watercolorist. And I got in last year that way, and the year before COVID or something, I got in with the abstracts and won an award. Because it's different, you know. I mean, it's going against the grain for that. But then with, I thought I would want to paint with paint on canvas. Now, if I presented the same imagery on canvas, then I would call it acrylic. You know, whatever. You know, I mean, it's too bad that, you know, even with watercolor stuff, that things get so pigeonholed into, you know, what it has to be. Oh, you know, the rule is such and such. But that isn't really art. You know, that's just an artificial pigeonholing of things. And a lot of times, you know, like with this work, a lot of it crosses over. You know, like I say, there's pastel in a sense, you know, watercolor pastel, but pastel nonetheless. You know, I don't really know. I've just done it with, you know, like a watercolor where it's under plexi and there's a mat. If it was the other way around, maybe so. Well, you know, I've used the 300-pound Arch hot press, you know, for all of these. But the thing is, if I'm mounting it like I'm doing lately, I could just use 140-pound, you know, because there'd be no reason to get into the others. So that would be. The other thing with our framer, who's a good friend of ours, man, the bill just for our Janet and my 2 paintings and a thing of mat board, it's like $1,200, you know. So I said something to him, and I said I was going to go to Lowe's, and I've got a table saw. I was going to rip a 2x4 and make my own stretcher strips and just do it on canvas. And he said, "Oh, look, I've got." So he had the material, you know, that has the little upper part for stretcher strips, and he said it's real cheap, and I'll make. Because the thing I like about this is I can crop it, but whereas if you're working on some of these things like the aluminum things and stuff like that, you really couldn't very easily crop things. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, you would if it wasn't presented like a watercolor, you would want to you know, varnish it with something. And there's a good process for that, you know, that can be more archival, where, I don't know why I put some white in here. Oh, well. Okay, we'll get it. We'll get her done. You know, I don't know. When it's heavy like that, I don't think it does dry to this. If it's, like I say, it's a little bit like firing a glaze. I don't ever know exactly what this is going to do. And I think the thinner it is, the more likely it is to do, you know, relatively weird stuff. And the thicker it is, the more it's going to, you know, remain where it is and behave more more consistently with what I put down. But otherwise, things will run together. You know, you'll have to clean it up because some of the stuff will get, you know, rather yucky, technical term, yucky. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, you know, with one of the things I've been doing is to, you know, have it consistent here. It's dominantly cool color with some really strong warm color as the subordinate part of it, the partner with it. But I've varied the blues. I don't know if it's as apparent when you're looking up there, but I've made a real point of, you know, making it, you know, a cooler blue over here and a warmer, you know, more tending toward the red over in this area. Over here, God knows what it's going to be like. No, it's just the way I'm painting. Well, no, some of it is little squiggles of color that are in there. Well, remember I said I was trying to figure out line, so I'll have to go look and. Oh, oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, wait, yeah, I see it like right across here. Oh, far out. Thank you, Jesus. What we need to do is do a screenshot. Well, we've got the recording, and I'll be, yeah, that. Well, that's, you know, that's the same thing with watercolor. Things happen, you know, that you're not necessarily responsible for. You know, they're forces that we're completely unaware of. Yeah. Well, maybe if you could probably.
And you're about 10 minutes.
Well, I'm figuring more like an outer space scene, like, you know, like something out of Star Trek, or, you know. But yeah, if you guys have some questions, you know, it's like I say, this is not the, you know, like this is not the one that won at Florida Watercolor. It's, you know, it's more in this area that, so even within the you know, the world of acrylic abstract, there's different things that, you know, there's different approaches to it. This is more, you know, for the benefit of getting something done, you know, and still having a little time left, you know, and a little.
Paint that. Right. Well, you said that's all the reflection all at once, so if you wanted to put like white, not spray paint.
Well, yeah, you can, you know, spatter it and stuff. You know, the appropriate time for that, for A, for putting line on, and B, for spattering and things like that, is after this dries completely. Because if you screw up, you know, if you think, oh, I'm going to make this wonderful mark, and you say, oh shit, I don't want to make that wonderful mark. That's not so wonderful. You can just wipe it off right away. You know, I thought that was the advantage of using the crayons and pencils. But you can do the same thing with paint. After this is dry, it's a slick surface. And so I did that. You know, I had something that I just played with. And each time I would play with it, I just wipe it out. And if that didn't do it, if there was any residual stuff, I'd use some alcohol and just, you know, quickly wipe it away. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
The piece you're working on now is quite glossy. Some of these very glossy looking.
Yeah.
It's a right side.
Yeah, and one other thing is maybe if you guys want to come up, you know, and take a look at it actually here, you know, that always gives you a different impression than you get out of that.
Yeah.
No, you've still got all that. It's this thing. It's this thing that's doing it. Is there a way to just have the room lights on and not this?
No. Not unless we go find law.
Okay. Yeah, this has Ron written all over it.
Right, she makes it all.
Yeah, that is this this thing across here is this. So irrespective of whether the no, it would, you know. Actually, what I was gonna do, you could turn the room light back on. What I was gonna do, yeah, and I also, could somebody, when I lift this up, could somebody come and take the two things that are underneath it off? Those. And then this will make it more kind of homogeneous. And I brought the damn thing, so I may as well use it. Here. That was what my wife said. I said, you think you could hold it on your lap, sweetie? She didn't think that was funny either. Yeah, there's another one. There's, this is the third one I've done here. The other ones have been for Joe and the trade show. Now I've got this thing. This is rigged for these, so it's elevated with some screws. So I can do that, and then I think I tried to do this at Joe's, and I had a couple of these, and I couldn't find them. But if we want to, crop out some area of the painting, you can do that. If you want to make it into a square, or the orientation, maybe this would. Uh-oh.
You're zoomed out as far.
Yeah.
You're zoomed out as far.
Oh, I just almost pushed the wrong button. Yeah. Sorry. We've got at home, we've got all the Zoom stuff, and we've actually got like two $900 Sony cameras with Zeiss lenses and stuff. And you can, on those, you can make that ring on the, mechanical thing, and you can reach it and just, zoom it and things like that. Anyway, if you guys want to come up and take a peek at it, that might be more instructive. But everything always looks better with a frame and matte and stuff.
Because look at safe smell, light bulb.
Yeah. Yeah, probably if the imagery isn't that reflective, it wouldn't do that. But just, oh, thank you, thanks.
Okay, so this is very glossy looking, but this piece, the other piece, has more of a wash look.
Yeah, I said that. I paint.
That.
Yeah.
See, so how do you achieve that? But it's still acrylic.
Yeah, it's absolutely that way, and there's also some.
Just thinned it more, maybe.
It's more dry brush.
More dry brush. Oh.
This is more,
Yeah, you can thick.
This is this.
Very thick. The other, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes really good stuff happens there.
Great.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Arlene.
Bye.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Solar flares. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, and a lot of fun too, What's that? Yeah. You really have to see, something like this in person. Yeah. It's also fluid acrylic. Yeah. It's just, treated more dry brush. That's real watercolor. Yeah. Transparent, nothing, no opaques or anything, no mascoid, just straight up old-fashioned watercolor.
How many times you launching back and forth?
You know, I have to because, you know, I get a workshop doing one and then I get another one doing another one. I'm going to do one with Megan at Cheap Joe's is doing Canuga now up in North Carolina, a big one with, you know, different instructors, a lot of them at one time. So I'm doing this there. So that was kind of one of the reasons I did that. And then that's watercolor. Yeah. Plein air. Yeah. Plein air watercolor. Yeah. 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 Okay. No, I'll look for you. Bring Chuck. No. Yeah. 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 Well, we're going in 2 or 3 days after this. We're going. Yeah. We'll be there about 3 weeks. So there's 2 sessions, 1 week each. So yeah, cool. I like it. Hi, Jen. Yes, it is. It's acrylic, and then over that, because I didn't like some of the shapes and I wanted some texture, it's Caran d'Ache Neo Color 2. Where I got a whole set of they're watercolor pastel crayon, yeah. And actually, it was Carol Fry that was doing a demo here, but she was mostly black and white.
Right.
But that's what she was talking about.
But it doesn't have that, it doesn't like pastel.
No, it doesn't at all. No, I would not use pastels in a million years. But these go on. They're not a wax. They're like a stick of watercolor. Really, is what it is. Yeah, it's fun too. Yeah, yeah, I like this, and the one I did, the one Best of Show had some of that in. You know, not to this degree, but some of it. And you can make, you know, squiggly marks and linear stuff, and you can use it wet. You can dip it in water and put it in. You can wet something and put it into wet, you know, or you can use it dry. You can use it dry and then spritz it, you know. So it's got a lot of options.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
You got this in national?
No, I don't think I've ever gotten this into anything. I'm not sure. I know I've had, you know, people have said, oh, you know, it's like somebody that's judged AWS and stuff that said, well, I don't know if I have or not. Anyway, yeah, we've got it in our house. Janet thinks it goes real well with the couch. You know?